Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at one of the new releases from Nth. As you can see here, we have another one of their watches, but that's covered in another review. So this one in particular is the Azores, and the type of Azores is the mint. As you can see, we have a nice minty colour to it. So Nth is another watch brand of Chris Vail, so it's a sister watch brand of Lou & Huey, which many of us will be well acquainted with. Now personally, I really liked the Lou & Huey watches, but I couldn't quite get on so well with the branding, whereas with Nth it's a different story. It's a much more serious, much more tool-like and much better looking type of branding to me personally. So immediately I really like it just because of the branding. It's very cool. So let's have a look at this watch to see if it is good value for money. So first of all, let's talk about the price. So the price is $700 or £530. So it is a little bit on the high side of things for maybe a micro brand. Many people might think, oh, I can get a fully Swiss made watch for that much money. Let's have a look at it in detail to see if it is worth that price tag. So first of all, on my 7¼ inch wrist, the dimensions are 40 mil in diameter, a 12 mil height, and a 48 mil lug to lug length. So I've got a 7¼ inch wrist, and for me it fits perfectly fine. I do find 40 mil is quite a sweet spot for me. 42, 43 mil, whilst it's still fine, it is creeping on the slightly larger scale. So I think 40 mil usually sits perfectly. It's very well balanced, very nice on the wrist. To go along with that size, we have a nice hefty weight of 150 grams as well. Very good quality on the wrist. You can immediately feel that it's a well built timepiece. Water resistance wise, we're looking at 30 atmospheres or 300 meters. So it's certainly got enough to handle anything you throw at it, whether that be a bit of a simple bit of swimming or even scuba diving. It will be able to handle. Probably wouldn't risk it with proper deep sea diving, but I'm sure anyone who does do that will have a dedicated watch for that. The movement is the STP 1-11. Now this is a new Swiss-made movement manufacturer, STP, and the 1-11 is one of their base, pretty standard mechanical movements. I actually came across this in the Nodus Trieste as well, and I found it to be a very reliable, decent movement. Accuracy of this one, this isn't regulated at all, so it's coming out pretty wild at like 60 seconds a day out. But these watches are just for the press, so they're not regulated or any such, and they do have a few little scratches here and there because they've done the rounds. So don't be concerned by those things. So moving on to the bracelet, certainly a specific style here, and we have a 20 mil lug length, and it although the bracelet tapers down, the actual buckle itself remains at 20 mil as well, as you can see if I line them up there. So I always like it when a bracelet remains the same width the whole way through. It gives it quite a good chunky appearance. So that's 20 mil there. And then finally, the warranty is 2 years. So if anything should happen, manufacturer's defects within 2 years, you're covered. Okay, so let's have a look at it in a little bit closer detail. So first off, let's start with the dial. So a very retro-inspired kind of feel to it, which I found with all of the Nth watches. Sort of like a super compressor kind of style, or even a blank pan kind of feel to it. So we have a very specific style here with quite a large rehaut, which is actually a rotating internal bezel, as you can see there. You can do it both ways, and that's via this top screw-in crown. Just push that back in. There we go. Quite easy to screw in and activate, which is nice. And then within that rehaut, we have this sort of like a texturized base, as you can see there. You'll be able to see it in close detail with the macro lens on. but that offers a bit of depth, especially with this rehaut, which sort of gives it multi-layered kind of feel to it. And then we have our nice shapely hands, again quite retro inspired. They're pitched, as you can see there, reflecting the light nicely, with a loom filled, and the loom matches the loom on the hands, minty coloured, matches the dial markings very nicely, as you can see there. So we have again quite retro kind of font used for the numbers, which is quite nice and different, and then just pretty standard straightforward printing, which is nice and accurate as well. Interestingly, it says 200 meters on the dial, but 300 meters on the website. So there we go. Maybe that's something that just needs altering on the website there, because I would probably prefer to go with the 200 meters on the dial. So moving on to the case then, quite a standard barrel shape. As you can see, we have a nice box crystal, and it's double domed as well. So when you're looking at it at sharp angles like this, the bottom dome counteracts the top dome, so you can still have perfect visibility, as you can see there. We have some subtle little polished edges here, so we have a ring around the bezel, which is polished, and then these top corners of the lugs. And if we flip it upside down, we have a really nice deep stamped case back, which is brushed apart from this diving apparatus head. So looking at our crowns, as you can see here, we have a nice grippy crown for our internal rotating bezel, and then our crown for the actual movement has the Nth logo engraved within, and then that is filled with the loom, which is the same case on the Amphion as well. So obviously it's a running theme of Nth watches, which I really love. It's really cool to see in the flesh or in the metal. So when my live review is up, make sure you check out the pics of the loom, because it is very cool with all the loom in these markings on the inner rotating bezel. They're all fully loomed as well, so it is quite a bit of a loom show, if you will. So that's very nice to see. So the finishing of the case is excellent quality, really good. The whole fit and finish of the case head is very impressive. So moving on to the bracelet. For me personally, I'm not too keen on this kind of bracelet. I personally think it's a little bit, I don't want to say it, but it's a little bit old for my personal tastes. But it's not to say that it's very well put together, and for someone who does like this style, it is an excellent choice. So we have these 5 rows of centre polished links, and then 2 outer brushed links as well. We have screw-in pins as well, and those pins have got a little bit of Loctite on the end, so the hope is they won't fall out at all, ever, because that's the one issue with screw-in pins, but it does make adjusting it very easy. Moving on to the buckle, I really like the buckle. You've got to be careful that this centre piece doesn't get too scratched, so that's the only issue I can foresee. So it's a single locking, but it's pretty sturdy. Have these two buttons either side just to release the catch, and then we have a very nice little extension there, just by pressing these other 2 buttons as well. So that's really nice movement on that, very high quality, and it was something that I was quite impressed with when I first had a look at it. So as you can see there, on the underside is pretty well put together. So that was a nice little surprise. Just a very sturdy, chunky buckle. Okay, so let's get the macro lens on and we'll have a look at it in even closer detail. So just give it a quick wipe. So starting off with the dial, you can immediately see our little texturized backdrop to the centerpiece, and then our printing on top is on its own little tiny platform, which is always good to see because it makes sure the printing is nice and sharp. And then we have this matte base for the surround and the internal rotating bezel. Our printing is all nice and fine, and our loom is accurately applied. Looking at our nice big hands, you can see the manufacturing there is pretty spot on. It's our running second hand as well. So on our internal rotating bezel, it's white rather than green markings, but that's all loomed as well. Okay, moving on to our case. If I just give it a quick wipe. So if we have a look at it from the side, you can see our bezel and the box top of our sapphire crystal. And then as we come further down, we have our brushed side, polished top edge of the lugs. Flip it over this way. Here's our crown with Nth engraved on the end, and our decent grip. Makes it easy to use. There's the grip of the top crown as well for the internal rotating bezel. So just flip it over to have a look at the case back. As you can see there, it's really, really deep, very impressive. You can see there just how detailed it is. And then our specifics around it are engraved. There we go. Moving on to our bracelet then. So there's our polished centre length. Has a potential of getting quite grubby. That's the only issue with all these smaller style links. Then we have brushed edges as well. And here's the screw in pins. And then just moving on to the buckle. This is a press sample, so please excuse the scratches. It most certainly has done the rounds, that's for sure, but it shows you the potential that if you're not too careful, you could end up with quite a few little marks on the top of this bracelet. So there's our buttons. Push that in to release. There we go, and then just this little extension. Nice and easy to use as well. Okay. So, personally, whilst it's not my cup of tea really, although that mainly could just be because of the bracelet, there's no doubting that it is a very, very good, sturdy watch for the money. Okay, some people might say that it's a little bit too much. You can get equivalents from Swiss-made brands, but saying that, you are getting a lot of watch for your money. You are getting what you're paying for, a very, very highly crafted, put together timepiece with great fit and finish. The finish of the case, the quality of the dial, the bracelet itself is very well put together. This nice buckle as well, and the quality of the loom as well. You are getting a Swiss-made automatic movement, in there. So don't forget that in itself is a fair bit of money. So although it doesn't have the Swiss-made logo or stamp on the watch itself, it's quite easy to see that this is the same quality as, or even better, as many Swiss-made watches out there. So don't be put off by the fact that it is on the slightly higher price scale and it isn't Swiss-made. You are still getting a watch of equivalent quality quite easily. So very, very well put together watch. Whilst it's not my cup of tea, I can still relate to the quality, obviously, and say that it is a very good purchase if it is your style and if you're looking at this watch. So this is the Nth Azores Mint, and that's what it's all about.